Hello, everyone, and welcome back to EasyTalk English. I'm Linda, and it really feels good to be here with you again today. Wherever you're listening from, I hope you're feeling calm and comfortable right now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alex. Before we start, let's take a small breath together and slow down just a little. Life can feel busy, but this space is just for learning and sharing.
Alex, how have things been for you lately? Work, daily life, all the small things that fill your days? For me, everything feels busy, but also a bit softer somehow.
I feel the same way. My days are full, but there's a strange feeling in the air, like something is changing. People around me are talking more about family and going home.
Yes, that's exactly it. Even when we're still working and studying, our minds slowly start turning toward home and togetherness.
And that's when I realize this season is special. It's the time when Lunar New Year is getting closer.
Right, Lunar New Year. Many people feel it before they even talk about it. The mood is warmer and everything feels a little more meaningful.
But here's something we hear from learners all the time. They say, I know what Lunar New Year means, but I don't know how to say it in English.
That feeling is so common. You understand it deeply in your heart, but when someone asks you in English, your mind suddenly goes quiet.
And today's episode is exactly for that moment. We're not here to study dates, history, or long explanations.
Yes, no academic talk and no pressure. We're going to focus on simple English and real feelings, the kind you can actually use in conversations.
So today, we'll answer one main question together. How do you talk about Lunar New Year naturally and comfortably in English?
We'll use short sentences, everyday words, and ideas that feel true to your life. You don't need perfect grammar to share something meaningful.
And if you enjoy learning English this way, please give this episode a like and subscribe to Easy Talk English. It really helps us continue making calm, real-life English content.
All right, let's begin and talk about Lunar New Year in a way that feels simple, honest, and real. Alex, when people hear Lunar New Year, they often ask a very simple question first. They say, what is Lunar New Year really?
Yes, and that question sounds easy, but many learners suddenly feel stuck. They know the holiday, but they don't know how to explain it in English without thinking too much.
Exactly, and this is where we want to change the mindset. You don't need a long definition or a perfect explanation.
Right. In real life, when someone asks, what is Lunar New Year? They usually just want a general idea, not a lesson.
So a very natural answer can be something like this. Lunar New Year is a traditional holiday that celebrates the start of a new year based on the moon.
That already sounds clear and friendly. It tells the listener what it is without too much detail.
Then comes the second common question. People often ask, why is Lunar New Year on a different date every year?
And again, learners feel pressure here. They think they need to explain calendars in a smart way.
But we can keep it very simple. The short answer is that Lunar New Year follows a different calendar.
Yes, most of the world uses the solar calendar, which is based on the sun. That's the calendar with fixed months, like January and February.
Lunar New Year follows the lunar calendar, which is based on the moon instead of the sun.
And because the moon cycle is different from the sun cycle, the date changes every year.
A very useful sentence for learners is this one. The date changes every year because it follows the moon.
That sentence is perfect for A2B1 level. It's short, clear, and easy to remember.
Notice something important here. We didn't explain how many days a lunar year has or compare numbers.
Yes, because in real conversations, people don't need all that information. They just want to understand the idea.
And if your listener understands the idea, your English is already working.
You can also say it even more simply if you want. For example, the date is different every year because it's based on the moon.
That's it. No stress, no overthinking, and no long explanations.
English is not about showing how much you know, it's about helping the other person understand you.
So when you talk about Lunar New Year, focus on meaning, not details.
Once people understand what it is and why the date changes, they often ask something more personal.
Yes, they start asking why it matters so much to people, and that's where the real story begins. After we understand what Lunar New Year is, the next question feels very natural to me. Why does it matter so much to people, even when life is already busy?
Yes, that's a great question. For most people, it's not really about the calendar or the date at all.
For me, the first word that comes to mind is family. Lunar New Year feels like one of the few times when everyone truly tries to come home.
I feel that too. Even people who live far away or work all the time make a big effort to return and be together.
That's why I often say coming home matters. It's not just about a place, but about feeling connected again.
Exactly. You sit at the same table, eat together, talk about the year, and suddenly time feels slower.
This is where a very useful phrase comes in for learners. You can say, Lunar New Year is a time for family gatherings.
That phrase sounds natural and warm. It clearly shows what the holiday means without explaining too much.
And beyond family, there's also this feeling of starting over. I really feel that strongly every year.
Same here. I always feel like how the year begins is important, even if I can't fully explain why.
Many people believe that the start of the year can affect how the rest of the year goes, so everyone wants to begin it in a good way.
Yes, people hope for good health, happiness, and peace. They want to leave the old year behind and move forward.
This is where the phrase, start fresh, feels perfect. It's simple, but it carries a lot of meaning.
I like that phrase too. Starting fresh doesn't mean everything changes overnight. It just means giving yourself a clean emotional start.
And when people talk about Lunar New Year in English, they don't need to say big things. They can simply say, it feels like a new beginning.
That sentence alone already tells a story. It shows hope, reflection, and a sense of moving forward.
I also notice that during this time, people become more gentle with each other. They speak more kindly and think more about others.
Yes, there's a feeling of respect, especially toward parents and elders. People want to show appreciation.
So Lunar New Year becomes a moment to look back at the past year and slowly let it go.
And at the same time, it's about looking ahead with hope. That balance makes the holiday very emotional for many people.
For English learners, this is really important to remember. English doesn't need to explain every detail.
English is there to help you share how something feels to you. That's more powerful than perfect information.
So when you talk about Lunar New Year, focus on family, new beginnings, and your personal feelings.
Because when feelings are clear, your English feels natural and real.
You know, Alex, something I really like about Lunar New Year is that many people think it belongs to just one country, but the more you talk about it, the more you realize that's not true at all.
Yes, I hear that a lot. People are often surprised when they learn that Lunar New Year is celebrated in many different countries.
Exactly. The traditions may look different, but the feeling behind them is very similar. That's something learners can confidently share in English.
Let's start with Vietnam, because for many people, that's the first place that comes to mind. In Vietnam, Lunar New Year is called Tet.
Tet is not just important in Vietnam, it's the most important holiday of the entire year. Everything slows down and turns toward family.
People travel home, clean their houses, prepare food, and spend time together. The streets feel more colorful and alive.
If learners want to say this simply, they can say, in Vietnam, Lunar New Year is called Tet, and family time is the most important part.
That sentence alone already explains a lot without being complicated. Now let's move to China.
In China, Lunar New Year is often called the Spring Festival. I really like that name because it sounds hopeful and fresh.
Yes, Spring Festival is about new life and new beginnings. Families gather for big meals and celebrate together for many days.
Red decorations are everywhere during this time. Red is a lucky color and represents happiness and success.
So learners can say something simple like,
In China, people celebrate the Spring Festival with family, food, and lucky colors.
Now let's talk about South Korea. Lunar New Year there is called Solal.
Solal has a very calm and respectful feeling. It focuses a lot on family, elders, and tradition.
People often wear traditional clothing and show respect to older family members. The atmosphere feels quiet but meaningful.
So again, different traditions, but the same core feeling: family, respect, and a fresh start.
And what I really love is that Lunar New Year doesn't stay only in Asia. It travels with people around the world.
Yes, in the United States, cities like San Francisco and New York have big Lunar New Year celebrations with parades and performances.
In the UK, London also has large public celebrations where people from many cultures come together.
Australia is another great example. In cities like Sydney, Lunar New Year festivals fill the streets with lights, food, and music.
And in many parts of Europe, Asian communities celebrate Lunar New Year and share their traditions with others.
So even if someone doesn't celebrate it at home, they might still see it in their city.
This is a very useful point for learners. You can say, Lunar New Year is celebrated in many countries around the world.
That sentence helps people understand that it's a global celebration, not a local one.
Different countries have different traditions, foods, and names, but the feeling is often the same. Family, hope, and new beginnings. Those ideas connect people across cultures.
And this is where English becomes powerful. English helps us share our culture with people from different backgrounds.
Exactly. English is not replacing your culture, it's simply a bridge that helps others understand it.
When learners remember that, they feel more confident speaking. They're not explaining facts, they're sharing a story.
And when stories are shared, cultures feel closer. That's the real value of English in moments like Lunar New Year. Now let's talk about something many learners struggle with when they talk about culture in English. They often feel they need to explain everything, every tradition, every detail, all at once. And that's when English starts to feel stressful instead of natural.
Yes, I see this a lot too. People start talking, then they panic a little and think, oh no, I need to explain more so they understand. But actually, that usually makes the listener more confused.
In real conversations, people don't tell the full story. They usually choose one or two familiar details and let the listener imagine the rest.
Exactly. When you choose small but meaningful details, your English sounds clearer and more confident.
Let's use Vietnam as an example. When people talk about Tet, they don't need to describe every day of the holiday. They can start with something very simple, like cleaning the house.
Yes, saying before Tet, people clean their houses already tells a lot. It shows preparation, care, and the idea of a new beginning.
And you don't need to explain why in detail. Most listeners can feel the meaning already.
Another easy detail is traditional food. You can simply say, we eat traditional food during Tet with our family.
That sentence sounds warm and complete. It shows family time without listing many dishes.
If you want to add one more detail, lucky money is a good choice. You can say, adults give lucky money to children to wish them good luck.
That's already enough information. 3 small details, but the picture is very clear.
Now let's move to China. Again, we don't need a long explanation here.
One very strong detail people often mention is the color red. You can say, red is a lucky color during Lunar New Year in China.
That single sentence explains belief, tradition, and feeling at the same time.
Another simple detail is the family dinner. You can say, families have a big dinner together to welcome the new year.
And if you want to talk about food, dumplings are an easy example. You can say, people eat dumplings because they symbolize good fortune.
Notice something important here. We're not naming many foods or explaining symbols in detail.
Yes, because food carries meaning. You don't need to explain everything for that meaning to be felt.
Now, let's talk about Korea. Again, just 1 or 2 ideas are enough.
One key detail is respect for elders. You can say, Lunar New Year in Korea is a time to show respect to elders.
That sentence is very powerful and very clear. It immediately tells the listener what matters most.
Another easy detail is traditional clothes.
People often wear traditional clothing during Seilal, especially when greeting family.
And when it comes to food, you don't need to name the dish. You can simply say, people eat special food to welcome the new year.
The idea is always more important than the details.
That's why this sentence is so useful. It's a way to show respect. You can use it in many cultures.
Yes, many Lunar New Year traditions are really about respect, gratitude, and connection.
So here's the main message for learners. You don't need to tell the whole story to sound natural in English.
Choose one or two details you know well. Talk about them calmly and let the feeling do the work.
Simple English with clear meaning is always better than long explanations full of stress.
And when you speak this way, people understand you more easily and the conversation feels real.
Now, let's move to the part many learners feel most nervous about. This is the real-life moment when someone suddenly asks you about Lunar New Year.
Yes, that moment when a coworker, a classmate, or a foreign friend looks at you and says, "Do you celebrate Lunar New Year?" And your mind goes blank.
Exactly. You know the answer, but you're worried about saying it the right way. So the first thing we want to say is this: you don't need a perfect answer.
In real conversations, people are not testing you. They're just curious and want to connect.
So let's start with the easiest question. Do you celebrate Lunar New Year? A very natural answer is, yes, I do. It's very important in my culture.
That sentence is calm and confident. You don't need to add anything unless the other person asks more.
And if you want to make it a little warmer, you can say, yes, I do. It's a very important time for my family.
Notice how that answer focuses on feeling, not information. It already tells a story.
Then usually comes the next question. What do people do in your country?
This is where learners often think they need to explain everything, but you really don't.
A simple and natural answer is, we spend time with family and eat traditional food.
That sentence works in almost any country. It's short, clear, and very easy to understand.
If you want to add one more detail, you can say, we also visit relatives and welcome the new year together.
Again, you're sharing a feeling, not giving a presentation.
Here's something very important for learners to remember. You don't need to speak for your whole country.
Yes, you're just sharing your experience. You can say, in my family, we usually, and that's enough.
That sentence takes away a lot of pressure. You're not explaining culture, you're telling a personal story.
And personal stories are always easier to tell than facts.
Sometimes people ask a follow-up question, like, what do you like most about Lunar New Year?
This is a great chance to talk about feelings. You can say, I like being with my family, or I like the feeling of starting fresh.
Those sentences are simple, but they sound very natural and honest.
And if you don't know how to answer, it's okay to pause. You can say, let me think, or that's a good question.
Pausing is normal in real conversations. Silence doesn't mean failure.
So remember this idea. Talking about Lunar New Year in English is not about being correct.
It's about sharing what it means to you in simple words.
When you focus on feelings instead of facts, your English sounds more natural.
And when you share instead of present, people feel closer to you.
That's how real conversations work, and that's exactly the kind of English we're learning here.
Before we say goodbye, let's slow down together and gently wrap up today's conversation. We've talked about many things, but the heart of Lunar New Year is actually very simple.
Yes, if you remember just a few ideas, that's already enough. You don't need to remember every detail or every tradition.
The first idea is family. Lunar New Year is a time when people try to come home and be together, even if life is busy.
The second idea is a new beginning. Many people feel that the start of the year matters and gives them hope for what's coming next.
And the third idea is connection. It's about feeling close to family, culture, and even yourself.
If you can share these three feelings, you're already speaking great English about Lunar New Year.
Now let's do a small, easy practice together. You don't need to write a long sentence, just something natural.
You can start with, in my country, Lunar New Year is, and then finish it in your own way.
You might say, in my country, Lunar New Year is a time for family and food. Or, in my country, Lunar New Year feels warm and meaningful.
Both are perfect. Simple English is real English.
Now it's time for our question of the day. How do people celebrate Lunar New Year where you live?
You can talk about food, family, decorations, or just how it feels for you. There is no right or wrong answer here.
When you leave a comment, you're not just answering a question, you're practicing English and sharing your story.
And when we read your comments, we learn from you too. That's how this community grows.
So if today's episode felt familiar or made you feel understood, please give this video a like. It helps more learners find EasyTalk English.
And don't forget to subscribe so you can join us again for more calm, real-life English conversations.
Before we go, we want to remind you of one important thing. English is not about perfect grammar.
English is about real life, real feelings, and real connection.
Speak slowly, speak honestly, and don't be afraid of simple words.
Thank you for spending this time with us. Wherever you are, we wish you warmth, peace, and a beautiful new beginning.
We'll see you in the next episode of Easy Talk English.